Good morning, folks. Welcome to our first Adavana Tamil Leader Speaker Series. My name is Valesa, and I'm the director here for social engagement. First of all, I would like to thank all of you guys for tuning in at different time zones from all over the globe. Our mission here is to share knowledge to aspiring entrepreneurs and help in underprivileged communities and make tech inclusive. That's why we have planned out 9 conversations throughout for the entire year of 2021. Watch out for our next discussion at the end of March. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Rajan, the chair of Adavana, that will give us a bit more of information about Adavana. Thank you.
Hi, all. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for those who are joining us from all over the world. Like Valirsa mentioned, we have 9 more speaker series planned for the year to share knowledge and make tech inclusive. But let me go ahead and give you a brief history of where things started and where we are. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So Aravanai is a not-for-profit organization in Canada. How has it started and evolved? There's a group of people who came together in San Francisco Bay Area. Predominantly, there was this person named Jay Surya who had this vision of creating a tech scene in the northeast of Sri Lanka to empower underprivileged communities. Which was known as Vanitech back in the day. And then just to keep the vision going forward, like-minded people, predominantly Tamil people from Bay Area who are entrepreneurs and engineers came together and formed this not-for-profit organization called ITE Foundation. ITE Foundation's vision is what we call E cubed, meaning 3 E's. First E being education, second being entrepreneurship, third being employment. So ITE Foundation, out of Bay Area has been focusing on doing those 3 pillars. Along the way, we identified partners who are having the same, like-mindedness on the ground. That's how, YAL IT Hub became the partners. So ITE Foundation became the pioneering partner for YAL IT Hub. And since then, we've been having a stronger partnership. Now in 2018 or 17 rather, Aravanai was founded in Canada to mobilize and empower, engage with the local communities from Canada and provide the necessary support back home through mentorship and accelerator programs. So that's the history. Like to date, collectively, we've delivered in terms of a program called UKI, which is a 6 months coding accelerator program, aims at getting kids who have done A-level but haven't gotten to university through a 6 months coding accelerator program that converts into a 1-year paid internship. And then there's another initiative called AKI, to provide knowledge content through a MOOC platform. And then we also participate with YAL IT Hub through initiatives such as YAL Geek Challenge, etc. Okay, so the main aspect of Aravanai is to mobilize people from Canada. For 2021, here's the current team. I'm not going to go into detail of each person. But our aim is to make sure we have diversity in the team. So you would notice that we have like a 50-50 division between female and male on the team. This is the promise that we execute on going forward as well. Should you need to know more about the team members, please do go to our website or our social media handle, where you would find more details about each of the individuals here. Okay, what's our vision? Our vision is to create a thriving and accessible startup ecosystem in Northeast Sri Lanka. What have we done in 2020? We've partnered with YAL IT Hub and ITE Foundation to create a 6-month accelerator program. And as part of that, one of the board of directors, Sen, partnered with Momentum Venture Partners, which is to provide investments to these YGC accelerator teams. We've built remote mentorship for YAL Geek Challenge, and we're in the 3rd year with more than 10 mentors in the network. And we built a roster of 15 plus mentors consisting of former entrepreneurs and executives to date. What are we trying to do in 2021? We're trying to build local capacity back home, as well as here. Develop founder and startup team skills for those going through the accelerator program in Northeast, and provide access to global network, such as to the mentors here or to mentors around the world. We see a lot of appetite coming from community in UK, US, and Australia, and how do we provide a platform for them to connect and help? With that, I would like to, if anyone in the crowd would like to be involved, please feel free to reach us out through hello@aravanai.org or at our website aravanai.org. Okay. From now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator for this event. It's Manjula Selvarajah, who's a journalist, a syndicated technology columnist, and a guest host at CBC, which is the Canada's public radio and broadcasting corporation. She is also a co-founder of the Tamil Women Rising organization, which is a not-for-profit organization aims at empowering and uplifting Tamil women in the community. Now, as I learned more about Manjula, she's also an engineer, holds a mechanical engineering degree from Queen's University, and she has also gone through startup scene in the past. She held roles such as VP of marketing at a startup called Eloqua, which got acquired by Oracle. Without further ado, I'm going to ask Manjula to come on board, and I do really appreciate for her involvement in this, and I'm looking forward to working with her as well. Manjula, please do come on. You're on mute.
Oh, of course. My gosh, that is the most, that is my goal in most meetings, is to not have someone say that to me, but it always happens.
That's okay.
Thank you. And it's lovely to see that photo behind you of sunny days. Hopefully they are ahead of us.
Awesome.
Thank you again.
Hey, welcome aboard, and thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. I heard what you had to say, and I think that the kind of work that you're doing is certainly admirable, and I'm watching it very closely, and I'm really honored that you would ask me to host this first part of your series, and looking forward to hopefully attending and listening to some of the others that you have. And it is my pleasure to introduce Baskar Puvanathasan. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. My apologies, Baskar, if I haven't. I should have checked in with you on that. But let me give you a little bit of a history on Baskar. Baskar was born and raised in Velane, a small island village off the coast of the Jaffna Peninsula. He immigrated to Canada with his family at 11, and in 2006, he graduated from the University of Waterloo with a degree in computer engineering. I'm sure some of you have heard of the University of Waterloo, but it's really known as a place for nurturing great IT talent and people that are actually sought after across the world, especially south of the border in the US. He started his career working at a small startup out of Toronto, Canada called Tira Wireless. In 2007, he decided to join Amazon.com in Seattle, Washington as a software engineer. Now, this is what's interesting. While at Amazon, he learned, because he was around so much, I'm sure, very interesting ideas, that computing is going to evolve and shape the future. So 2 years later, he left Amazon and co-founded PagerDuty with two of his classmates from the University of Waterloo. PagerDuty is an enterprise software company in the IT operations and DevOps space that serves over 11,000 customers and is publicly listed on the New York Stock Exchange. He, along with his co-founders, built the product that has become considered as the industry standard for managing incidents in highly agile teams. Baskar, of course, it sounds like he's a serial entrepreneur because he's gone on now to become the CEO and co-founder of BorgIQ, a small startup that is trying to make automation more accessible to everyone. Baskar, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Baskar, I'm going to get you to fix my pronunciation here. How do I say it? I should know this. I'm Kamal, I should know this. How do I pronounce your last name correctly so everyone knows it?
Puvanathasan.
Puvanathasan. Okay. And is it BorgIQ? Is that the name of the company?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Wow. So you are a serial entrepreneur. So let me take you back to a day that I find quite fascinating, because this particular photo of you actually made the rounds in the community, obviously because a ton of people were proud of your accomplishments. So correct me if I've got the dates wrong here, but it was April 11th. PagerDuty went IPO at a valuation of nearly $2 billion. And there's this picture of you, this boy, this boy from Villeneuve on the internet that day with a huge smile. Tell me, what was that day like for you?
It was surreal, actually. Yeah, it was a long 10 years of hard work. It's not just me. It's a team of 700 people at the company. Sorry, actually, can I start my video? Actually, I'm trying to find a way.
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to say that I can't see you, and we'll get.
I think you have to enable it for me.
Okay, so I think let me just find out if I have to or someone has to. Oh, okay. Oh, I have to enable it. Okay. Wow, I have such powers. Okay, hold on 1 second. Baskar. You know what, Baskar? Keep answering that question while I figure this out here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a I guess a milestone event for the company. I mean, if you think about what taking a company public means, is an opportunity for all your stakeholders to liquidate, have an opportunity to have a liquidity event, but also it's an opportunity for the company to actually raise a larger amount of finance to actually go pursue its future goals in the future. So in the process, PagerDuty raised over $200 million, and the goal is to actually use that to actually spend on R&D and actually go either acquire companies or go after bigger markets. And so that's kind of the goal. But it was a big family event for us. So I'm grateful for everyone who got us to that point.
So Baskar, what I've done is I've actually made you the host of the event. If you want to actually enable yourself there. Okay, fantastic. So it's funny that when I think of that moment, and my apologies to everyone for the technical difficulties, but hey, I'm here, Baskar is here, we've got a great cause here, so let's make this happen and get some knowledge out of Baskar. So again, hello Baskar, it's good to see you this morning.
Likewise.
So, most of us would think that moment in that photo, again, something that was passed around, I don't know if you know that it was passed around in the community, that we would imagine that was your favorite moment, but I hear that's not your favorite moment in the journey of your company. What then is your favorite moment?
Yeah, I mean, as a founder, when you're starting off a company, there's risk, like whatever you're building, is that going to be sold? If people will actually buy it, would they actually pay for it? So this goes back in 2009 when I think it's about 4 months into the project, we just had a basic product, like the MVP, minimum viable product, what you call it, on the market as a beta version, and there were some customers using us, and so this is a long day. I just came out of finishing a long day at work, and come home and I see this email from this potential. I mean, he's a user of the product. He was a CTO of a 70-person ad tech company, and the first thing he asked was like, "When are you going to charge for the product?"
Oh, your product was free then, of course.
Yes, because we didn't think we were actually offering any value. That's the other thing. Like, so we weren't charging for the product, and so the first question is asked, like, when are you going to charge for it? Because I can't use your product unless you charge me. Because if you're not around, I can't depend on you for mission critical workload, like mission critical process, right? So that was a big aha. Okay, so we already found somebody who's willing to pay for the product, and that's kind of a big aha moment, because when somebody's trying to open it with their wallet to actually pay for something you built, right? Spent months working on it.
That's a really good moment. Yeah. Especially when you're at the, as you said, the minimum viable product stage, where you're still trying to see, is this a possibility, right? Now, in the simplest way possible, and you don't get 10 minutes to do this, because sometimes I'm afraid to ask product savvy people who love their products this question, but in the simplest way possible, explain to us what PagerDuty does.
Oh, sure. So we tell our story as we are the central nervous system for any company's digital operations. So let me give you an example. So Netflix is one of our customers, and so they have a large streaming platform. And so if the platform is impacted, their customers are impacted. So how do they make sure that they don't get any loading screens on somebody's TV? And they actually put lots of metrics or sensors in the system to measure performance. But the problem is, once if the performance degrades, you have to actually find somebody to work on it. So that's what we do. We come in and actually help them with that, centralizing the whole, collect all the data from different systems, aggregate them, do modeling, and then actually find the right set of people to actually fix those problems. So then they get notification through, email, SMS, and so on. And then we want to make sure that they're on the call. If they're not, we actually find someone else. So they get 5 minutes to, acknowledge the incident. If not, we go find someone else, and we just do that call chain until we find somebody to actually work on the problem.
Now, what's interesting, Baskar, is that, I look back at sort of the history of the company over the last while, history of the community over the last while. And, when I go back to around 2009, which was a very difficult time for the community, there were so many people around that time that chose to do really big things with their life. They wanted to be able to influence the world in different ways. I found it was a turning point for the community. People chose to go into politics, into journalism, become policymakers. And I suspect that part of that trend in the community was also driving you. People that come out of Waterloo can pick and choose their jobs. They can go to Amazon, they can go to some of the largest companies in the world. Why did you choose to start something instead?
Yeah, it all goes back to building the community wealth, because as a community, we are a minority community in the country, and we need to have people in different influential positions. So I picked entrepreneurship because that's what I'm passionate about. So, and building things is what something drives me. So funny thing, we started coding for the product in February of 2009. So about 12 years ago, like last week, I believe. Start building the product, and it was just a way to put my energy to actually move our community forward. I guess one of the ways the way I thought about it.
Yeah, I find that's interesting. That's the process that people were going through, and then it became something big. Now let's go back to that idea stage. You have a vast network of entrepreneurs and founders simply because of the work that you've done with PagerDuty, your amazing journey with PagerDuty. So you came up with this great idea. You've been around people who generate great ideas. Talk to me about that. Like, where can people get good ideas and ideas that can be the basis of a startup? Where do they get generated in your lives?
Yeah, so traditionally ideas come up of personal problems people run into at work. So if you go work for a company, you find somebody that's some process that is very inefficient, waste of time, waste of money, and you come up with solutions to actually fix it. So that's where your creative process comes in. Now, the next step we should do is actually go and talk to other people in your position or in the same space and see if they have the same problem. And then eventually that leads to a potential solution where you could actually speed up that process. Example of an idea generation. Other ideas come from if there's deregulation or regulation happening. So especially with recently with GDPR in the European Union, that actually minted like $5 billion companies, because to be compliant with GDPR, you actually need solutions, you need tools or software to actually solve that problem. And so this opportunity came in, people jumped on it, and there's companies, I think about 4 or 5 companies that are valued over $1 billion in the space, and they are making a lot of revenue in terms of just selling those solutions. Because if you go to a company, they need to solve this GDPR problem. They don't know what to do. Like, oh, I got to go read the law, right? So here's a solution that might guide you the process, right? So that's regulation. Deregulation also causes the same issue. So I think there's like deregulation in the telecom industry that causes more startups to be opportunities to open up and for people to take advantage of the technology, whatever that's being opened up. So I would look for places in like when there's regulation or deregulation happening, personal problems that in your just talking to a lot of people helps. So go find people. If you want to be entrepreneurship, pursue entrepreneurship, you should go to talk to a lot of people in different fields to get exposed to the type of problems they're facing. So if you go talk to people spending most of their time in like a biology lab, there are so many manual mundane things they do, and if they have a software solution that will free up their time to work on something more creative, like actually working on challenging problems, actually finding cure rather than actually fighting computers and moving data around. Example of problems that people face. So just talking to a lot of people, looking at industry changes. Now there's recent stuff happening in like space, putting stuff in space is becoming really, really cheap. Now there's going to be a lot of other changes. Like now anyone could build small satellites because you could take a phone and actually, retrofit it to fly in space. And now you actually have a device that could do more things. So now starting to see patterns about a lot of space tech companies coming up solving for like farmers, forestry. There's other issues, like things that are bigger problems we could solve, but using satellite technology that's cheaper, accessible. There's lots of, just looking for opportunity in this space, like the new waves, right? As space becomes a platform, it's got a lot more opportunities in the space exploration space as well.
That is such a great answer to that question, right? So if I think that is actually one of the best answers, because I put this question to quite a few entrepreneurs. So here are a couple of things that you said. Evaluate the personal processes in your life, like actually sit back and analyze what you go through in your life and the roadblocks that you hit. When you're watching the news or watching things unfold, look for deregulation because that spurns opportunities. Look for platforms that are suddenly being woken up because they actually create other opportunities. So as an example, there's a company formed out of the University of Toronto that is trying to extract lithium out of lithium. So, we know that smartphones and all of these electric cars use lithium-ion batteries, and they're using battery recycling technology to extract that. So that's a case, or the space one that you mentioned of a platform. So that would be a third way. That's fantastic. That actually gives us a couple of opportunities for ideas. But then if we go to the next stage, I know that you generally are very modest about where the idea for PagerDuty comes from. Rumor on the streets is that you were actually instrumental. You were the one who came up with the idea. Let me be more specific. So, but here you have this idea, which ends up being quite brilliant. Of course, no one knows this when they have the idea, but you decided to go seek out co-founders. Why work with co-founders? What is it that co-founders bring to establishing and growing a company?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at every company that's ever come huge, there's a team of founders. It's actually YC, the incubator that we went through, actually found a pattern where there's no single sole founder company ever succeed. Like they actually need somebody, you need actually a co-founder. For example, case in point, Dropbox was a single founder company when he applied. They told him, go back, find a co-founder. So he found his MIT classmate to actually become his co-founder. And they actually, Dropbox was the first company from YC to go public. There's an example of case in point. The reason is it's all like emotional, because as humans, we have these high and lows, and you need people when you're doing those low times to actually come and boost you up, give you the energy to kind of, move forward. Otherwise you'll give up. That's the other, you'll just give up. You won't have that energy to pursue, go through hurdles to actually overcome the challenges. So you most likely will give up. If you have a co-founder, you have a team of co-founders, then each of them get to that point in different stages, and you can just push you to the way for you to move forward. That's kind of the emotional reasons for getting a co-founder. And then talent-wise, people are good at different skill sets. So you want to have a group or team that could, get the company off the ground. So just depending on the space you're in, definitely you should definitely get a co-founder.
So, here then you have a team of co-founders assembled, and your company, I know you mentioned the words YC before, and if anyone wants to know what that is a very prominent organization accelerator called Y Combinator. Your company applied to Y Combinator initially and got rejected. Now, what's interesting about such applications is there are people out there, entrepreneurs, who use the rejection of such applications as a test for if they have a good idea, meaning that if they get rejected, they just walk away from the idea and work on something else. But your team didn't. You decided to keep pursuing it. Why do you think that was? Like, what were the signs that told you that, despite this rejection, there's actually something potentially useful here?
Yeah, it's the conviction in the product we had. Like, we know because we are coming from that domain knowledge of how to run software teams and how to run software in the cloud. So we knew this is a problem where YC is from an investor perspective, and they talk to a small set of people who might not be running the software in the way that we envision the world will be running. So they kind of filtered out all the potential outcomes, right? So that's why you should investors are just investors. For every investor that said yes to one, you'll have 100 people say no, right? So so some people are in tuned into some insights into some of the problems you solve. So at that stage, YC didn't see the problem being worth solving. But then, when we applied it again, we did apply again. But this time we actually had YC companies as customers, and as a proof point, okay, there's actually a problem with solving. Look, some of your companies are actually portfolio companies are using as a product, and they're running mission critical, workloads that that they depend on PagerDuty for them to be up at all the time, right? So that's kind of the signal. Okay, then there's potential for the company. That's kind of we got into the second time.
If I understand the journey, you went from starting out this idea, getting co-founders. You applied to Y Combinator initially, you didn't get in, and then you decided to actually work with an incubator, I believe in the UK, right? What is the value that entrepreneurs can get out of working with an incubator?
Yeah, it's first the mentorship. Like, sometimes, because you don't know what you don't know. So especially when you build businesses, there are so many hurdles you have to go through. It's just from just how to price your product, how to package your product, how do you market, how do you sell, how do you build a sales team. And so if you actually had somebody who could guide you through, who has sort of done it before, actually learn all the things you should avoid, it saves you so much time, right? So that's what these incubators help in terms of, so they probably have a list of people who've done this before, and they don't know all the mistakes you could make, and their goal is to help you not to make those mistakes. But in the end, you'll actually make some new mistakes, then you will eventually you pass the knowledge to your future generation. But that's how these incubators work. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
My apologies. I would imagine that it's also an accelerated process. So you're not spending like 2 years going through all of this, that decision making or the product fit and things like that are figured out really fast.
That's right. So they, it's mostly compressed in like 3 months program. And so they try to, partner you with mentors from different aspects, sales, marketing, hiring, right? That's some of the important aspect of building a company. So if you're any entrepreneurs out there looking to applying to incubators, it's a good place to start if you do get in, because it just speeds up, it accelerates your future growth, I guess. That's and the second aspect, actually, I would say is for YC, is actually like it's an MBA program to get you to raise money. So it's a way to, like, the training starts from day 1 until day 90. They keep training you to actually convince others to give you money, especially investors, right? So that was the first part of their process, because they already done the filtering. Like they normally typically get like 5,000 applications. and they filter them down to 80 teams. And so now they know the team is good. So now they have to make sure that all of them get funding from somebody in the Valley, so they can pursue the goals, right? So they train you how to do pitching, how to take investor meetings, how to set terms and things like that as well.
So, I should, in case there's anyone on here that might not understand the difference between an incubator and accelerator, it's important to know this. So very briefly, I'll explain it. I always draw the analogy of an incubator is what helps you have the baby, and an accelerator is what helps you raise it. So an incubator is an organization that really works with early stage companies to help you develop the idea. And then an accelerator is what helps you sort of scale that and grow that and take it to the next stage. So now let's get to talking about that journey now, right? You apply back to a Y Combinator and yay, you're accepted. And we have to look at the success of Y Combinator. I believe they have had such a remarkable success with companies. I mean, DoorDash came out of that, Stripe came out of that. I believe Reddit came out of Y Combinator as well. I mean, the Airbnb came out of Y Combinator. They have some fabulous companies that they've sort of sent out into the market. So what is it that happens at these? You've touched on it before, but I want you to go over it again. Is what is it that happens at these companies that increase a company's chances of success? And really, why is it that anyone should work with an accelerator?
Yeah, I mean, so especially in the Valley, it helps to have connections to investors who could kind of give you that one single guidance to actually make it, make your product have, better or worse. For example, in Airbnb's case, it was one of those ideas where they hired professional photographers to actually take the photos of this host, their properties. And then as soon as they did that, the attraction just went up. They just exponential growth. So they found, then somebody in the YC network kind of suggested the idea. So these small things actually make a big difference in the companies. And so these accelerators have these knowledge, the expert knowledge to kind of help you through that process. But also, again, raising funds. In our case, we were matched with some angels. And the goal was to actually convince them to invest in PagerDuty. Luckily for us, both of them did. So one of them was the founder of a company called Heroku, and the other one is actually a Stanford prof who teaches marketing, and he has a small VC fund called Harrison Metal, and he liked what we were building. He liked how we approached, go to market, things like that. So they both came in, and he led our seed round. Harrison Metal led our seed round when we raised our round after YC. So it was, so yeah, so it was a $1.8 million raise, and he led that round. So so that worked, just training them.
Do you feel that what YC did for you is, kind of in a way validate, provide this sort of stamp of validation, but also expand your network for looking for early stage investors? So that's fascinating. So now let's get into talking about